Hi, I'm Nellie. I have codependent tendencies I'm forever working on. I'm known to over-explain things, and I get bored by intellectual conversations. I often interrupt people mid-sentence, not because of what I have to say is more important. It's merely because I'm from New York. I'm a firm believer in listening to my heart, trusting my gut, and the extraordinary power of resurrection. My childhood was spent outside, barefoot, and most of the time naked. I caught frogs, got filthy, and I ate onion grass from an area of the lawn my dogs loved to pee on. I was fascinated by anything that drew breath or drank water. When adults would ask me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" the stupidest question on earth. Stupid because when is this moment? When are we actually grown up? Stupid because rather than focusing on the fact that we can be many things throughout our dynamic lives, the question just focuses on one single outcome. I think a better question to ask would be, what makes your heart sing? And how do you want to share those songs with the world? But I digress. When asked that stupid question, I would automatically say a veterinarian. However, I didn't end up learning to read until the 4th grade. And after the classifications, accommodations, cognitive tests, countless hours in resource room, parent-teacher conferences, after-school tutoring, summer tutoring, and teasing on the playground, the dream of becoming a veterinarian quickly disappeared for a weird kid who couldn't read and got her commas confused with periods and her consonants confused with vowels. I hated school. I missed so much class my senior year, I was almost prohibited from graduating. It wasn't all bad, though. I did find sanctuary in the art department. And despite my grades, my teachers recognized my creativity and encouraged me to apply to art school. I was accepted into the Maryland Institute College of Art. And with a newfound love for school and enthusiasm for homework, my parents began to wonder what happened to their pot-smoking, beer-drinking daughter. And just when I really started to spread my wings and turn a new leaf, I fell flat on my face. Midway through my first year of college, I broke my ankle. And while I hobbled around navigating a 3-story walk-up, I started to investigate a few other concerns I was having about my health. After about 1 million tests and probably 2 quarts of blood, the doctors had concluded that at the ripe old age of 18, I was never going to conceive a child. And my head was possibly filled with tumors. All my newfound enthusiasm for school died overnight. Depression threw its cloak over my life. I felt like there was no clear path for my creativity. No deep-rooted passion propelling my artistic voice. So I dropped out of school. I answered an ad from a seed catalog in northern New Mexico. I bought my first plane ticket to somewhere, and I ended up in the middle of nowhere. I was determined to strike out on the most practical career path and become a farmer. I cried on a regular basis because I couldn't believe I lived in a place where I could see snow-capped mountains and cactus blossoms at the same time. I cried on a regular basis because for the first time, even though I was weeding carrots and hilling potatoes, I felt like my life had become extraordinary. I can tell you right now I never became a farmer. But by buying that plane ticket, I changed my life forever. My brain never exploded. I found out the hard way I could conceive a child. And for 14 years, I have dedicated my life to being a farmhand. By stating I never became a farmer, I am simply saying that I was never the risk holder, the one who held the lease or the deed or decided to get big or get out or to get small, to downsize, to make things more manageable. I never had to go to the bank to take a loan out just to make payroll. I was never the one who had to make the hard decision of which good dairy cow to send to slaughter. It was never me deciding to raise the price on a dozen eggs, despite the fact that the customer base were already experts in complaining about the price of food. I was never part of the staggering statistic that the average age of the American farmer is nearly 60 years old. I was just that statistics support staff. As a farmhand, however, I can confidently stand here and tell you that I have planted acres of winter squash and staked miles of tomatoes. I have cleaned thousands of pounds of garlic, and I have sorted and packed more boxes of zucchini than I care to think about. I have crawled on my hands and knees, weeding carrots, cutting salad greens, and harvesting strawberries. I have made countless deliveries to wholesalers, restaurants, and food banks. I can share that I have milked goats and cows, collected thousands of eggs, and watched goslings become geese. I have harvested buckets of honey, and I have captured swarms of bees. I have shoveled about 100,000 pounds of shit, and I have watched mamas eat their own placenta after giving birth. I have chased chickens before dawn, and I have been chased by testosterone-filled bulls after dark. I have treated hoof rot, extracted bot flies, dealt with fly strike, oozing scabs, and clumpy, bloody mastitis-filled milk. I've slaughtered chickens, ducks, turkeys, calves, and sheep, and I have had the sacred privilege of ending the lives of creatures that were too innocent and fresh to this world to know what life on earth is really made of. In blizzards, sleet, rain, and sweltering heat, I have worked alongside teenagers, pregnant mothers, grandparents, and convicted felons, with pot-smoking, peace-loving hippies and God-loving recovering addicts. I have worked with a 6-year-old who cared more than me about the task at hand, and I have worked with a 65-year-old who could move faster than I could blink my eyes. I have worked with people who told me I need to go to church and be saved, and I have worked with people who felt like Holy Spirits themselves. I have worked with people who cannot go home to their families because of the risk of deportation, and I have worked with people who were just dipping their feet in, wanting to taste something different for a change. I recognize the difference, and I know that my life as a farmhand was extraordinary because my life as a farmhand was my choice. I have laughed, and I have cried. I have grieved, and I have rejoiced in fields with people who have grown to be my family. Over the years, I learned that growing food is one of the simplest, wholehearted, yet most complex, overlooked, undervalued, misunderstood fields of work that exist. In one growing season, the weather conditions could be perfect for every cut of hay, while in the next, it never stops raining, and every pest imaginable descends upon the fields. I realize that to produce nutrient-dense food means you work like hell, but a lot of the times, things like the weather, the cost of animal feed, and when the old pump decides to stop working are out of your control. Farming is about becoming brave and growing a backbone. That to engage with the land every day, you must embrace your failures. I learned that whatever you do on a farm, you can't be afraid to fail. Because at some point, you're going to. A lot of the time, you're going to. And you must accept that it's okay, even when it's not, and you must pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and learn from your mistakes. On a farm, life becomes about problem solving and striving for small victories. Life becomes about letting go of expectations and becoming an optimist. Life is about having the unwavering confidence that you got out of bed with the rising sun, you did the best you could, and you lived the fuck out of your day. I learned that every farmer is essentially a mother who every morning makes the conscious decision about what kind of mother they are going to be. As soon as you put plants in the ground or cows in a field, you have become responsible for another life. Your livelihood depends on whether that life flourishes and grows strong or withers and fails to thrive. Life should be cherished because nothing can live forever if the world is to keep turning. Everything must die and be reborn from the blood and bones of its ancestors. Whether it's a plant, an egg, a cow, a business plan, a weather pattern, or a belief. It all must get composted, reused, and rebuilt. A cyclical pattern that is as old as the earth. Everything must be gobbled up, annihilated, and burned to the ground to create a more resilient future. I learned that if you love the earth, no matter how many times it knocks you on your ass and shows you who's boss, it will always, no matter what, love you back. But there's a big difference between how the earth loves you and how people love you. I realized this a year ago when once again I fell flat on my face. My partner of many years, also a farmhand, packed up his stuff and left. I was 32. I had 20 ducks, 5 geese, a cat, a dog, 104-foot-long logs inoculated with shiitake spawn, a broken dream to one day produce food with the person I loved, and not a plan in sight for what was to come. Then, one of my dearest friends dared me to open a door I had forgotten was there and reapply to art school. Funny how things work out. Because although my dream for producing food and acquiring land is still strong, I am ready to venture down a new path. I want to make art about the people who put food on our tables, about the animals that create our soil, about the bugs that pollinate our crops and the birds that eat up those bugs. I want to illustrate a book about the intricacies of small-scale, biodiverse agriculture. I am making art about everything I have learned as a farmhand, about how the earth eats everything up and then ceaselessly brings it back to life. Things change quickly on a farm due to about 45,000 different variables. You learn to accept and adapt and persevere. You learn to move on and love the past because it informs the present and hopefully will lead to a brighter future. Because isn't it always the future that gives us hope? And where on earth would we be without hope? One winter, while getting up to milk cows, I felt lost, and I stumbled upon a poem by Wendell Berry called Manifesto, the Mad Farmer's Liberation Front. The second to the last line goes like this: "Be like the fox, who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction." Even if I wasn't sure of my direction yet, or even now for that matter, I knew he was right. Nothing is ever lost, and our experiences, our tracks, have a tendency to build on one another if we let them. Like farming, life is about resilience. It's about realizing that while the path you are on is twisted and full of potholes, seeming to move in the wrong direction, you just persevere and keep going. You learn to value the shit life throws at you because you start to realize it's all that muck that makes it worth living. This is what makes us strong and brave and unique. Life has a funny way of leading us back to the things that are inexplicably close to our hearts. And in the final line of Wendell's poem, he states, "Practice resurrection." So this evening, I ask, what could resurrection look like to you? What have you always wanted to do that did not make sense or align with your linear life plan? What makes your heart sing? And how do you want to share those songs with the world?